Hello guys and welcome back. If this is your first time, I hope you will stay. Espero que te quedes. So today we're going to have a little chat rather, about what school was like for me in the 90s. Obviously I was born in the 80s, but I went to secondary school in the 90s, which is my decade. So the difference is between school for me then and it is for you now. I sort of think that from the noughties upwards that you've all had so much more than we had. But okay, let's get into it. Right. So to study, our go-to tool was obviously encyclopedias. Last year, someone asked me what an encyclopedia was, and I was like, it was our version of the internet, our version of Google. Instead of Googling things, we had these great big books with vast amount of information, which would help us to study, do our homework. It was just what we used to study, basically. Different volumes, and it was just a lot harder, really, which meant we had to take a lot more notes than you guys did, okay? Because obviously, which goes into another point. Now you get loads and loads of sheets on everything that you do. So most of those sheets, I'm not saying we never ever had any sheets. We did, but very, very few. Okay, so everything was handwritten. It was a lot of note taking, and obviously, yeah, point one. Right, next thing for learning Spanish. For learning Spanish, I remember we had loads of old newspapers that just had it was just too wordy for us to understand. So we had a lot of old newspapers to study from, which wasn't fun at all. Now you have so much more that you guys can study from. You can buy magazines which are glossy and prettier, and reading stuff is so much more now. It's so much more available than it was when we were at school, when I was at school. Right. Telenovelas. If I keep looking down, it's because I've got stuff so I don't forget any of the points. So telenovelas, so soap operas. That was probably, and I probably mentioned it before, that this was one of the best tools that I had. And we didn't have a lot of Spanish channels at all. Actually, we had no Spanish channels in England when I was growing up. So I think it was BBC One, or could be ITV, I can't remember. Maybe BBC One, that used to put on the Mexican telenovela, but it was literally at a time where it was just not a good hour to watch. It was like, I think 3:20 or 2:20 in the morning, not in the afternoon, in the morning when I should have been in bed. And I remember creeping downstairs to watch it, and then Mum would come down and say, "What are you doing downstairs?" And I'd pretend that I'd just gone down to get milk or a glass of water or something, because obviously it was too late to be out of bed. So yeah, telenovelas was one thing that I used. Obviously now, if you want to watch telenovelas, which is a great tool, it is so brilliant. You can look up on the internet, look for telenovelas en español, and you'll get a list like this. So obviously the timetable would not be a problem for you. Something I didn't have. Anyways, moving on to another point, resources in general. I always offer my students resources like past papers. I'll ask them for a stick so they can save listenings or past papers on them. Like, I never had that when I was at school. So that's another difference. You have so much more resources at hand, so you can study. Right. Next one, number 5, apps. This is such a dream. I would have loved to have grown up in this decade where you have so many apps. You have, even on my phone now, I have so many apps for learning Spanish. You have so many websites that you can go to. You have Babbel, you have, all you need to do is to go into Google and type in best apps for learning Spanish. Hundreds will come out. Don't know if hundreds, but loads will come out, definitely. Okay. Flashcards. I used to study with flashcards, and I think that's something that never get old because you can still use them now. I used to make my flashcards. Now you can buy them if you don't want to make them, but I do still think that you can make them if you don't want to spend the money. So that's a difference and similarity because they still exist. Right. Pen friends. We had pen friends, and this was just such a common thing, not just in Spanish, in English as well. So a pen friend is where your teacher would encourage you to write to someone from another country. And our Spanish teacher, what she did is she'd get us pen friends from Spain, and you would just correspond on paper. You would write back and forth. Gracias, Emilia. Back and forth with the letters in Spanish, and it was just really good because you felt so important that that you knew someone somewhere else, somewhere from another country, and that you were doing it in Spanish. I dread to think what my Spanish was like back then, but yeah, it was really fun. Now you can use emails and stuff. There's a really great app, Amino. Is it Amino, Emilia?
Yes, it is.
And you can find friends on there to obviously practice your Spanish or your French or your German or whatever it is that you're studying on. And there are just so many things, so much more. Right. The only help that I felt that we had, which leads me down to point 8, your teachers, physical teachers in class. If I had any doubt, I had to wait till I was at school to actually ask my teacher. Now online, you have teachers there, you have tutors there, you have free Spanish classes, lessons that you can, go and revise and always be practicing, like myself. Yeah, if you need any help, here I am, for free. Right, okay. Exchange programs. There's still there were exchange programs when I was at school, and there's still exchange programs now. However, I feel as though when I was young, they were really expensive, so I never went on any because, well, we didn't really have all that much money, to be honest. Right, okay, Spaniards. There were no Spanish people around when I was growing up. I never heard any Spanish at all, so I feel as though I had no opportunity to actually really practice my listening skills because I didn't come around any Hispanic or Spanish-speaking people at all. Now I go home to Wiltshire and I hear Spanish all the time. So make friends with people who are Spanish. There's so many Spanish people around now that I feel as though you'll be a fool not to make the most of it. Make Spanish friends. Okay, so these are the biggest differences I feel that there are when it comes to learning, especially learning Spanish. So the internet, I think, is the biggest point where we didn't have internet, so we lost out on that a bit. But you're the lucky ones, so make the most of it. And guys, I will see you soon. I feel as though I can't speak today.
I'll see you soon.
I'll see you. I can't speak today. What's wrong with my tongue? Oh my God! Like everything's coming out wrong. And I don't edit my videos, so this is what it is. What you've just heard is what I'm going to post. That's what you get. And if you have not already subscribed to the channel, guys, the channel? Oh my God! What's wrong with me? If you have not already subscribed to the channel, por favor, you can do it down there. And hasta la próxima vez. Adiós.